Now using it to show me what it's going to be like in the future. Listen, Happy New Year's. May God bless everybody that's lived to see many, many more. I want to just kind of wind it down a little bit today. Kind of just fall back and keep it a buck. Have a conversation, just letting loose. Um, Kind of looking at the importance of being able to empty ourselves in order to be filled, and also to look at how that process of um, disposing um, of those things that rotten us from the inside out, emptying ourselves out so that we can be poured into means that then we would only pour out good things to others because we allow the space for ourselves to be emptied before we be filled and then before we pour. So we're not pouring out all of our hurt, all of our hate, all of our hits, all of our poison, all of our pain. One of the things that I felt was very important going into the new year was to just really kind of, you know, wind it back, wind it back. And when I say wind it back, I'm not just talking about, us taking a look at, or just speaking of myself, um, not just me taking a look back at 2025, um, not just looking at that, not just saying, hey, here's everything that went right last year. Here's everything that I done well. Here's everything that I didn't do so well. No, it's bigger than that. The big picture is for total healing. And a lot of times, in order for there to be total healing, then you got to be honest with yourself and you got to dig a little bit deeper sometimes because a lot of the things that we project, whether they be positive or negative, are oftentimes rooted in much deeper things. It's just the same as a sore. If, when I was growing up, my mother used to always say, quit picking at that soul, boy. Quit picking at that soul, boy. And the deal is that what she called picking at was me trying to dig away the scab, trying to dig away the excess skin um, that appeared. This excess skin kind of reared its ugly head because of me doing all the scratching. That was really the picking that I should not have been doing. I shouldn't have been scratching and digging into it every time I felt a little tickle or a little tingle here, because that's a part of the healing process. In my immaturity, I didn't realize that that's what was going on. That that meant that the skin was covering the sore, that the skin was coming back together again, that the sore, that the wound now has a covering. It's just only a thin layer. And every time I felt a itch, a pinch, a tickle or a tingle, was just the joining back together of the covering of what was once whole but had been wounded. And so at picking at it, I'm destroying the new covering that was allowing me to heal. So that's what my mother was talking about. Um, Good case in point is that I bear a large wound on my right index finger for that very thing. That was something in my late teenage years that I got a blister on from playing the drums. When my hands would cramp up drumming in church, I would plant the drumsticks instead of holding them the proper way. I would let them rest in between my fingers so I could just let it ride. you know, kind of take it easy. Got a blister, start digging in it with a safety pin, whatever sharp I could find. And every time my mother would catch me, she looked like she wanted to choke me out. Yeah, big football player on my way to college, about to play college ball, benching about 325, leg pressing about 600 pounds. I'm a big boy, but I could see it in her eyes. I'm gonna hem you up if I catch you digging in it. Well, it got to the point where um, she didn't get the opportunity to snatch me up because of my disobedience and in my immaturity, not realizing the lesson that mama was trying to teach me is that my finger did get infected. So much so to the point that where I had to be put on steroids to try to contain the infection. But, lo and behold, the damage had been done. And so with the steroids, it did help most of the skin begin to recover from the infection and to start to grow back properly. But the steroids bleached it. And so now my finger is disfigured, even though it still works fine. Um, the skin doesn't properly grow all the way back. You want to know why? Because I started digging on it when it needed time to heal. And furthermore, had I not fooled around with it in the first place, Lord have mercy, that will preach. Keep that in mind. Had I not fooled with it in the first place, I never would have got the infection in my finger. And then, had I not got the infection in my finger, I would not still to this day, at almost 60, um, 40 years later, still have the proof that I fooled around with a wound that never properly healed. In that, there are so many of us, and I can speak about myself, but I'm sure that what I'm saying, and it's the point of me actually recording all of this, um, is to help others with what I've gone through. The Bible speaks of us overcoming by the word of our testimony. I think all of us kind of understand in the Christian faith. Yes, we know about the blood of the Lamb, and and when death and when enemies and when opposition sees the blood, it speaks of the Passover lamb. That when the blood of the firstling of the lambs is posted on the doorpost when it was time for the children of Israel to exodus or to exit up out of Egypt, when death saw that blood, it passed over them. And so it became an indication that they were covered under the blood. But I want to say that there are times when we move too fast and we forget the importance of the covering. And so, in order for there to be perfect healing, in order for us to become better at what we do in our own lives, what we do for good, and the good that we can do, and when we get opportunities to do for others. A lot of times, our responses and our actions are rooted deep down within us in the fact that we have broken what had covered us. Um, Deep down within, beneath the scar tissue, beneath the the scab, is the actual wound itself. And I think oftentimes we run past all of that and we forget about how we got the wound in the first place. I would just like to take a minute to just leave this piece of information with you, is that you have to go back and look at where the wound came from. When did the wound appear? How did it happen? Why did it happen? Could you have avoided it happening? And whatever it was that coulda, shoulda, would have been done, but didn't get done and did not prevent you from being wounded, friends of mine, are we allowing the proper healing and the scabbing without picking at it? Because when we pick at it, when we mess with something that hasn't healed, and you go out and try to pretend like you whole, skinning and grinning, laughing and joking, I've done all of that. That's a good way for me to throw ointment or to throw a band-aid over a wound. Unfortunately for me, I still do that to this day. My daddy told me a thing years ago when I was a child. He said, son, I found it better for me to laugh than to cry. I said, why is that, Dad? Because you cry a lot. And not crying because he was sad. My dad was one of those guys. I don't know if you ever knew people who, the ones that can get so hot until they shed a tear, or their eyes get so red and filled up with tears, and then that's just the calm before the storm. Yeah, he was that. He was the storm. And so he said the laughter helped to prevent that. So I learned how to be a comedian, to try to hide and to cover up and to throw band-aids and to throw ointment on something that really needed surgery. Yeah. And I think a lot of us may find ourselves having been or being guilty of that. Sometimes, man, it's all right to cry. I'm learning that. Hey, if you still got breath, it ain't too late. It ain't never too late to learn. Gotta always be learning something. Gotta be a scholar at something. You understand? So I'm learning to nurse old wounds that I didn't allow time to heal. That now, even if the damage is done, I have to find a way to try to find resolution. And even if I can't find resolution, then Lord have mercy on my soul. At least let me find peace in the comfort of knowing that I can have some type of relief, even if I don't have the full recovery. Does that make sense to anybody? This is the beginning of a series of videos that I will run that is going to open up some things in my life that may somehow help all of you in your life. And if there's any question to come from what we've discussed today, I think that question is, where is the healing? So that's what we'll look at throughout this series of videos. Where is the healing? God bless y'all. Happy New Year to everybody. Man, that's all I got. Let's go get it. Thanks for joining us. And join us again right here at the Healing House. Peace.